I got kicked out of the house and lived in my car for 2 days. And the story of why might surprise you. Now, for those of you that know me, most people know me as someone that is very cheerful, lighthearted, and someone that can be very down to earth to talk to when the time is right. However, I wasn't always like this. And there was a part of me that used to be heavily run by his emotions. And this is the story of how I essentially got kicked out and how I then began to have more control over what those emotions were and how I handled them, and eventually how I turned my life around. So, make sure before we get into the story that you leave a like, that you end up commenting on the video, and that you subscribe. So, let's go ahead and jump into why I got kicked out and had to live in my car. It all starts with a relationship that I had been in for more than 5 years. And in this relationship, I was dead set on the idea that I was going to marry this girl. Now, in my mind, I knew this and I knew that I wanted it to be something special. I wanted to do it in a special place or at a special time. I didn't want to just randomly do it at some park, at some nice occasion. I wanted it to be in a location that is hard to access on a regular basis, or I wanted it to be at the 7 year mark, which would have been another little bit before it ended up happening. And so before that time came, the relationship came to an end. And as a person would do in the end of a long-term relationship, I was grievous. And from from that grief, I was emotionally volatile. During the time of me and this person separating, I returned to live with my parents. And living there, I was as sad of a boy as you could possibly imagine. I'm talking staying in my room for most of the day, not wanting to do anything really, and just trying to figure out through YouTube videos, Google searches, what happened, where did I go wrong, all of the things that a sad boy does. And in that time of doing that, eventually I just decided that I was going to pick up, lean on my family, and allow for that to be a comfort to me. And it did work for a good while. I started to get myself back into a place of functionality relatively quickly, I would even say. I spent a lot of time with my younger siblings, going out and doing things with them, with my parents, and in ways that I hadn't been in years prior, because most of my time went to this relationship. And so it was awesome to reconnect. And things were really and truly going amazingly well. We were going to parks, we were going to beaches, we were going to nightclubs, me and my brothers, and we were really and truly just living it up as, 3, 4, 5 single men at the time, depending on which groups of friends and how many brothers I was with at the time. And then at a certain point during this process, the whole thing flipped because I got a message back. And in this message, it was a message that was expressing a desire to rekindle the relationship. It expressed that she desired to try things again, that she actually wanted to spend her whole life with me. I couldn't believe my eyes, as anyone would think. I thought to myself, what the heck? This thing was clearly over. Decisions have been made. Like, I am clearly not the person that you want. And so I did some thinking on it. And after consulting a couple of people, I decided, you know what? Let me hold out an olive branch and see what's going on. So I did it. And long story short on that, it was not real. In fact, the person ended up telling me, hey, this was actually something that I kind of jumped the gun on. I didn't really want to do this. I was just emotional at the time. This was an important learning moment for me because in my entire life, I have always thought that two people who love each other, that have been together for a long time, gone through certain things together, that these people could always make their way back to each other. And so to have this person not once, but now twice get my feelings up high in something and then to completely turn the page on me, it was stabs to the heart that I didn't think people who loved each other would do that to each other. And now, mind you, I by no means make the claim of being a optimal partner myself. In fact, I hold myself fully responsible for the way that things went downhill. And I'm not just saying that just as some like, oh, I should have done better, da da da. I should have known the signs. I deserve to be treated better. None of that crap. I I can now say today as a married man that there were many things I did in that relationship that turned someone that could have been an amazing wife into a very questionable ex-girlfriend. And so that was something that I later learned. Continuing back to chronological order, though, the process of me now accepting that again upset me greatly. However, I was still able to get over it for the most part in a fairly quick fashion. We eventually got to the point where we were able to speak on a friendly basis. Mind you, this was after tumultuous arguments through text messages, miscommunications, and all kinds of things like that. So eventually, it got to a place where we were talking every other day or so. I would let them know, hey, if you want to talk to me, feel free to reach out on your terms. I will not message you at all. I'll respect your boundaries and you can just contact me whenever you would like. And so once that happened, the person would then begin to talk to me as they felt comfortable. And we were, like I said, we were good. Things were friendly. They were kosher. So what happened that I go from being in a decent place with this person to getting kicked out of the house? Well, here we go. So at a certain point, the person and I worked on a similar job site. Now, this job site that we worked on, I was an electrician and they did their job in their field. And there were people in between, people that I talked to and people that she talked to. And sometimes those people talked, sometimes they didn't. And there were interactions that I had with some of this person's coworkers. Now, I never said certain things about how things resolved between myself and this person. But apparently, one of the coworkers was telling other people, hey, this person is doing XYZ, and that's the T. And so I got asked about, hey, did you go and tell this person what was going on? And my answer was, of course not. I know that this person is, one, someone I don't know, but two, they're kind of strange, frankly. And so I was surprised, but I was really not giving it too much time and attention. So fast forward a little bit longer, and we're talking, and my ex is expressing to me that they have concern over this person saying something. And so I made the decision that, okay, even though I was in the clear, I hadn't told anybody, I decided, let me reach out to somebody that I know is a mutual supporter of both her and of myself. And I'm going to tell this person what's going on, how things ended, and basically that's where it backfired on me. Because as soon as I left from telling that person, because I told this person, and mind you, of course, intentions aren't what people really care about. It is the result of what happens. Now, this person didn't go out and blab their mouth to anybody. They didn't tell anyone they shouldn't have, but they did go and they teased my ex about what I had just told them. And so when the ex got the message from this mutual person, she was angry as can be and basically blamed me and assumed that I wanted to tear her life apart. And so she blocked me. She didn't respond to messages I was sending. Like, everything was completely kaput. Now, at the same time as this event happened, something a day, maybe 2 days later, I was sleeping and someone in my family, I don't even remember who it was at this time, but someone needed to move my car. Now, some quick backstory on this car. This car represented to me the last bit of the relationship that I had with this person. Mind you, this person thinks that I'm trying to tear their life apart. Our relationship just ended. And so all the money that I had saved up during the course of our relationship in the past year and a half to 2 years, I was planning to use for a special proposal. And it was upward of $6,000. I wanted to do something really big, as I had mentioned. And so when we were over and I had to get my own vehicle, this car, I spent every dollar I saved up in that relationship on this car. And so I woke up, somebody woke me up and asked me for the key to move my car. And I gave it to them. And then when I woke up to get ready for my shift in order to be able to head out, I didn't see the car. And so I start freaking out. My thought is, where's my car at? I need to get to work. Why didn't the person just put it back? Who had it? I trusted my keys to my mother, not to some other person. She needs to tell me where my car is. And also, I'm freaking out because this car is the only thing that I have as a remnant of that relationship. And I feel my feeling was, and now somebody has disrespected my ownership of this last piece that I have. And so I took out that emotion of anger and I went and I was in my mother's room and I am asking calmly at first, "Hey, where's this thing?" "Oh, I don't know." "Well, where is it? I need it. I got to get to work." And little by little, it escalated and escalated and escalated until finally I am shouting, "Where is my car? I need it for work. I trusted you with it and you don't know where it is." And there's another piece that goes into this, but my mother was not a fan of her children getting loud with her. Now, mind you, I've never done anything to physically harm my parents in any way, but like I said, there are other things at play at the same time concurrently, and it completely didn't even cross my mind. I was purely acting in my emotion at this time. And so when my mother saw these certain symptoms at play in myself, she reacted and she told me to get out, to not come back. And so I listened to her. I packed up some things, filled my car that I did eventually end up finding, and I left. And so at the time of me doing this, I was I was freaking out at that point because now I'm thinking that the person that I loved for more than 5 years hates my guts. My mother is afraid of me, so much so that she kicked me out of the house. And now here I am living in my car at the age of 25 years old. How much of a failure am I that at 25 I'm living in my car? I have this thought experiment that I like to do on a pretty regular basis where I look at where I am in life. I look at where I am, what type of person I am, the things that I do, where my energy, attention, and my heart goes to, the people I'm surrounded with. And I challenge myself and ask myself, what would you 10 years ago say? Would you right now make you 10 years ago proud? Or is what you're doing, would that make you 10 years ago upset, angry, disappointed, feel like why continue if you're going to end up there? And as I was going through work and I was considering my place with the relationship that I had lost and considering my place with my mother, the fact that I'm living in my car now, I knew that me 10 years ago would see where I was and he would think that he was an absolute loser. And the fact of knowing this absolutely, it crushed me because not only did I let down all of the people that cared about me most in this person, in my mother, in my younger self, I also I failed in so many ways, like the capacities that everything that I built myself on, family, this relationship, and making my younger self proud, I failed all of it. And so I'm living in my car, staying in Planet Fitness centers, looking for places to sleep. And I'm just looking like, what are you doing? I'm walking around work and I- I'm in between tasks that we're doing, lunch breaks, things like that. I'm Googling how to self delete. What are the least painful ways to self delete? Now, as a as a kudos to Google, they don't make it easy for people to be able to find painless self deletion methods. There's only a bunch of get help, like, you know, taking your life watch or taking your life helplines. And you have to, I don't know, maybe go on something else in order to find it because Google is not going to give you those answers. And so I made the decision that I didn't care anymore about having a good life, about having fun, about enjoying things the way that I wanted to enjoy it. Because up to that point, everything that I did was in service of the idea of having a good life, being nice to people, being kind to people, keeping an open mind. And as long as it isn't hurting anybody, then why not do it? And that's the mentality that broke down my relationship, really and truly. I didn't give the reason previous in this video of what happened in the relationship. And that's because I knew that it would come up later. What crushed that relationship was not that the person was a bad person, not even that I was a bad person, but it was that basically I had internalized so much of what was going on culturally and the mentality of what was popular at that time, which was why get married? Most marriages end in divorce. And so you don't need to run towards it. Now, I also have mentioned in the video, I plan to propose to this person. And that is true as well. What was happening was I was speaking to the girl I was in a relationship with as if I didn't want to propose. I was trying to play a game where I was throwing her off the scent, making her think that we were just going to do life together and basically we could be in a relationship forever without marriage. Now, I say that, but there were conversations that were had about, well, if I did propose, where would you want me to propose at? What type of proposal would you want it to be? We had those conversations, but by and large, our entire friend group had the mentality that marriage is not necessary. On top of that, because I had this desire to be so inclusive, to be so open minded, I was studying alternative lifestyles. I was studying gay lifestyles. I was studying transgender lifestyles. And on a regular basis, the day would consist of get home from work, uh, do whatever homework there was, if there was any, and then maybe spend about an hour, hour and a half with my then girlfriend watching videos of this transgender girl getting her perspective on different things going on in culture. I then started to add to that watching videos on polyamorous couples, polyamorous relationships, having more than one partner. And my girlfriend and I would watch these things and we'd sit there and we'd look at it and say, this kind of makes sense. It's so hard to afford things that why wouldn't it be easier if you had two parents working jobs and then one parent could stay home? You can't do that in a regular relationship because two people need to be working. But if there's three people, you get the situation where one person can be a full time stay at home. And so we were seriously talking about the benefits and the cons of it. And at a certain point in time, I brought up the idea that, man, maybe we should consider that because I, in I, if me and you would be, this was a line of dialogue that occurred. If me and you worked, you'd be working a lot. And based off of what I'm doing as an electrician, I'd be working a lot. So we're both working for most of the daytime. Who's taking care? Maybe if we got another girl in the relationship, she could take care of the kids. And then my girlfriend at the time's thought was, or if there was two guys in the relationship, both of you guys could work, or whoever the two highest earners are, if one of them is me, I could work, and whichever one between you guys could work, and then one of you could stay at home with the kids. And so these were thoughts that we were talking about. And this basically devolved into, essentially, she got the opportunity to bring another man into the relationship. And that's what happened. And eventually there was a breakdown of attention that was given to me, of emotional security that she had and that I had. I began to treat her poorly. I would have some outbursts where I would say things like, I'm so bored being here with you. I don't know why we're in this relationship together. I said all kinds of horrible things that led up to eventually the situation where I returned to live with my parents. And so I realized that all of my open mindedness had led me to living in this car. And so I said, I'm going to give up all of the crap that I was doing because it has done nothing decent for me. So about a day later, it was later in the night of the second night, I got a reach out from my father, and we talked for a bit. And eventually, two of my siblings and the girlfriend of one of my siblings came. They picked me up from the spot that I was staying in. I think we met at a Wawa, and we drove over to my father's house. Now, my father and mother, they're separated. I didn't clarify that at the beginning. I lived with my mother and stepfather, and then my father and mother lived in another part of the state. And so we went over there, we talked about some things. After a while, we were laughing, talking more. And basically, my father gave me some perspective on some things. Now, I still wasn't at the point of being ready to move back in with my mother. And so I was ready to return to my car, continue to live, but not do it from the place of anger that I at one point had for my mother. And so it's kind of crazy because literally the next day that comes after work, at this point, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to leave my car at my work site. I was driving back and forth between work, Planet Fitness, showering in the showers, coming back, living in the car. Maybe I'd go pick up something from a nearby Wawa or gas station or eat out spot, and I would eat that. And that's what my time looked like. So I get off of work one day, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I not use gas as much as possible because there's issues with this car and I don't have the money to fix it right now. And then I get in the car, and wouldn't you know it, the doggone car will not start. Fresh out of work, dusty because I'm working a fresh construction site. I'm dusty, I'm dirty, I'm grimy, and I'm certainly sweaty, and my car will not work. And so I have to call my mother. She shows up. She helps me to go and get a new battery for my car, change it out, and then we say our goodbyes to each other. And then at a certain point, I forget what was the occasion, but I come to the house and we talk. She and I talk in the room that I used to live in. And she says to me, I expected you to move back in the other day. And she was referring to the previous day where she helped me get the car back in. And basically, we talked about the issues of what happened, the emotions that I had from the breakup, my feelings with the car, and how that all kind of got on top of each other. We talked about the situation of the issues that had been happening around the house that were not related to me, but that did end up affecting her and our interaction. And just how each of us were just, we took so much from other things and we allowed it to affect our interactions with each other. And I ended up moving back in. Now, I still had the mentality that, man, I moved back in, but I'm only moved back in out of necessity. I don't want to continue to be here because I know that there is this sense of you're here now, but don't get comfortable. And I didn't want to get comfortable. And so I made it my mission that I was going to keep myself as busy as possible. And it's so interesting because when I moved back in for the first time in forever, I got down on my knees and I prayed. Got down on my knees and I prayed. I said, God, me and you have had some type of relationship for the past 10 years. I believed in you, but I don't believe in you the way that people believe in you. But man, if you are any type of good God, help me out. And I decided that I would make him a larger part of my life, and I would create pillars of my life, and I would live by those pillars instead of living for all the things that I previously understood and represented, open-mindedness and wanting to learn and curiosity all the time and all of those things. I decided I was going to live by God, education, and health. Those were my new pillars. I had no clue how to go about doing the God element. I didn't know how. This was not after I had started doing church again. This was just me deciding I need to make God a serious part of my life because I knew that if I had God in my life at the time that things were going wrong with my then girlfriend and with my mom, the ways that I was behaving and the situations I was in, I would not have found myself in. And so I made the choice to make God number one, my health number two, and my education with my work the third thing. And that was all I was living for. And so that's how I ended up making my way into the places that eventually transformed my life. From there, I continued to live my life because I was so centered around health. I started going to the gym every day, if not every day. Then during the nighttime, the only time I would take time off from the gym is if I was resting up, because I was probably fasting and I was too energy drained from my fast as well. But that didn't happen a lot because I fasted all the time. And eventually I said, I need to add in an activity that I can not worry about being good at it or that has any type of weight to it, but that I can just go and have fun and maybe even laugh at myself. And so I picked up dance class and I started going to dance class on a regular basis. And so now my life consisted of dance class plus school plus work plus praying on a regular basis, but not really doing anything with it. But just trying to live in a way and have thoughts and do things that I knew that God, from what I had learned in my childhood, that he would want me to do. So I would try and pray. I would try and speak nicely to people. I would try and treat people well. And that was my life for about a month and a half. And then after a month and a half, I then met the person that would then be my introduction into the church world and would set me up to begin my own faith journey, where that number one slot of God that I didn't know what to do with, suddenly I would be in head first, jumping into that number one slot. Now, this video was to cover me getting kicked out and why I decided to change my life around. If you want to hear the story of what it looked like once I actually started to get involved with church, if you want to know about some of the pitfalls that I ran into, the struggles, like if I decided to go back to my old life and what that looked like, then I'm telling you, you're going to want to click on this video right here, because this video is going to be the whole story of what happened with my church walk, all the struggles, the ups and downs, and where it has led me to today. But I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you were able to get something from it, that you were able to be entertained, and as well as to just be educated and, what happened with me. And if any of this resonates with you, then definitely drop a like, leave a comment of some of your struggles that you've had with this whole, your emotions, outbursts that you've had. Maybe you felt God tugging at you and you've been afraid to make a move to go closer towards him. I'd love to hear about that. And definitely be sure to subscribe to the channel to get the next story as it comes out. Until the next video, I hope you have a great day, that you've been entertained in some form, and I will see you next time here at the Inspired Challenge Podcast. Take care.